learned that only by just being smashed completely on my face.
Getting the momentum back after an obstacle, that's the greatest thing.
Yeah, and that is also what will make you evolve in life.
I wanted to start with, I have something for you.
Oh,
there you go.
That's where we're starting with.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
yeah.
I'm curious. You didn't have to do that, Paul.
No, but this is my favorite book.
Okay.
And I wanted to start off with sharing it with you.
Oh, that's so polite. Thank you.
The fun thing is, this book I've never been able to keep it, so I don't have it. I've read it like 5 times, but every time I buy it, I have to give it away. So.
Oh my gosh, The Alchemist from Paulo.
Yeah.
Paulo. I've never finished the book, but I started it and it's great. But this seems to be basically the manual to life, right?
It is, yeah. For the journey to life, it fits.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much. This is great.
Yeah, it's my favorite book.
Oh, and it's in Dutch.
Yeah.
That will also make it more easy to read away. Well, thank you so much. And likewise, I wouldn't sit here if I didn't feel like the click and I wasn't inspired with what you're doing.
Right.
Also, thank you for inviting me, because it works both ways, right?
And if you finish this book and you want to give it away, please do. I like giving away these books, so please feel free to do it as well.
I will. I'm usually also that person that makes sure that books, are circulating around with friends. Really?
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's sharing of knowledge, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't mind reading a book about, I don't know, something more spiritual or something business-wise or something completely out of scope for myself, because that is the thing that will trigger you, not the things that you already know, right?
That's true. In different parts of your life, you have something else that connects with you. And I find with this book, every time I read it again, I find something new that I didn't see the last time. Yeah. Because I'm now in a new part of my journey that it sort of fits better.
Yeah. That different parts of the book resonate with your journey, right? Where
you're
right now in life.
I wanted to start off for all the listeners. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself? You're Valesca and you have your own company, Vesper Investments?
Vesper Investments.
But please tell me a bit more about what your company is and what you do.
My name is Valesca Nieuwenhuis. I'm the owner of Vesper Investments. Vesper Investments is a company that is specialized and advising Dutch and Belgian capital on investing in the Polish real estate market, especially in commercial real estate. Think about logistics, but also PRS, so the private rental sector, and PBSA. So PBSA, for people that don't know this abbreviation, it stands for Purpose-Built Student Accommodation. So student housing, micro-living apartments that are usually rented out to students or sometimes also to starters in the rental market. I started my Dutch branch of the company a bit more than a year ago, but I have already been active in real estate for a longer time because I'm guiding a very big logistic development project for my own family in Poland. Mm-hmm. And that is how I also rolled basically into this idea of starting my own company and bringing Dutch capital to Poland, because I really saw the potential of the market there. And with the overregulation of the Dutch market, it was a no-brainer of connecting these two dots and seeing if I could convince and enthusiasm people, private individuals with a lot of money, to investing there. That is how it started.
With having your company and how you use the Dutch capital and do all the development in Poland, you sort of help your own country as well. Because would you say that Poland has a lot of growth potential?
Yes, it does. Yeah. You still have an early mover advantage in a lot of segments within real estate. Like, for example, PBSA, what I just touched upon. It's quite a new market. It's not institutionalized yet. So if as an investor you move early, you enter the market before you have a lot of competition, then that is your first capital gain basically.
Yeah, PBSA.
Yeah. So student housing. Let's just call it student housing.
That's easier.
It has indeed a particular specific name to distinguish itself. And the reason why this is particular and interesting segment is because there is high demand, but there is only limited supply. And the supply that there is available in the market, it's, very low quality stock. It's usually housing opportunities that are offered by universities, and they have a different quality level, but especially for international students also from the West, that doesn't match with their expectations. So this is indeed a gap that a lot of investors and a lot of developers kind of like spotted and they're trying to anticipate on.
More students from internationally can come to Poland and still have this sort of a similar standard what they're used to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's really cool. I was wondering, for like you've started your own company and you've had lots of work experience, but how did you get your idea to start with real estate and get into that industry?
Yeah, well, that's actually a funny story because my background is not in real estate nor in real estate investing. I started after my studies in a quite financial corner. I was working for a long time as a business controller at Accenture. Well, I learned quite a lot there. I put the basis in place for my financial background, which I still use today in real estate, because the basis for real estate is indeed finance, right?
Of course.
I realized in that company that it was not for me. I was constantly distracted. I was working on everything except for what I had to do. I was always quite interested in real estate, so I was reading a lot about that. I was writing papers about real estate. And then I realized I have to do something with this. When I was working at Accenture at that time, I bought a ticket to Expo Real. Expo Real is a fair, real estate fair in the south of Germany, and I just went there. I talked with a family friend that is working at BNP Paribas, and I explained him about this idea. So he said, go, have a look. You have to see if indeed this industry is a match for you, because it has an interesting dynamic. It's male dominated, let's be honest. It's quite specific. There's no good or bad, but you have to be able to maneuver yourself in that dynamic. I went to that fair and I started walking around, talking with a lot of people, and I had the time of my life. I was not working in real estate, but somehow I managed to connect with those people and those companies that were represented on that fair. And that is also how I got my first job in real estate at Cushman & Wakefield.
Almost at that conference,
fair.
At the fair.
I started talking with a London representative from Cushman & Wakefield, and he connected me with the Dutch CEO of Cushman & Wakefield. And that is how I got my job, because they were so positively surprised that as a non-real estate professional, I just got a ticket by myself to that fair and decided that that was for me.
Wow.
So that is how I got into real estate. And at Cushman I worked for, let's say, almost 4 years. And then I also realized that I'm not working well in a corporate routine. So that I should step out before my entrepreneurial mindset is completely flattened. Because
why would you say that?
Yeah, because when I worked at Cushman & Wakefield, and Cushman & Wakefield is a corporate in their way of working, in everything that they do in the end. Maybe not as corporate as other real estate firms, but still a corporate. And I realized I was too stubborn. I was not agreeing with everything that management had put in place for our team, for our department. I was always quite direct, had my own opinions, and it doesn't work in an environment like that. And this is also not good or bad. It doesn't make me better or them better. It simply shows that there is a discrepancy in mindset. Despite being a team player, I like quick decision making. I like quick paces. I don't like to spend more time on things that are not needed. And in corporates, they tend to discuss topics over and over and over again until the point that it is so squeezed out, and then it works for them. And that is not how I move.
Would you say then more quick action and just start making steps instead of trying to view it from every angle before you even start?
Yeah, I don't like that. I really don't like that. I know that till some certain extent, I also need that way of working, because I'm also in real estate development, and that are usually very lengthy processes, so you need patience. But I don't like to discuss with 40 people what they think about this specific matter if it's not needed. Because I have the feeling that corporates also do it, or tend to do it quite often, to also kind of shift responsibility, to make sure that everybody is covered. And that is why decisions sometimes take a long time, but also I'm convinced that you don't make the right decision sometimes because of that way of working.
In a simple way, how would you say that your perfect way of working would be?
Oh, my perfect way of working. Well, let's then first start with that I don't think that there is one way of working to start with.
Yeah.
But for me, the way of working is connecting with the right people and placing them at the right opportunities. So I'm always quite careful of who I work together with. Because you could imagine that with the projects that we run, I don't work alone. I have some external partners that bring a lot of experience within their own segment that I work together with. And for me, the way of working is really connecting with the right people and placing them at the right opportunity.
Yeah.
That is a way of working. And sometimes that might take longer because it also depends on, first of all, the proposition. Second of all, what your investor might like, right? Maybe they want to keep it for their own portfolio, a certain development. That brings a completely different strategy to the table and also a different way of working. Or maybe they want to exit the construction or the development by the end of the process to an institutional fund. Brings also different type of objectives and therewith a different way of working. So it depends on the strategy. But for me, really the people are the core. They make it or they break it.
I really like that because then you have the value of the other person can really come up. You bring the right opportunity for that person to shine, essentially.
Well, that's at least what you hope to do, right? That's the intention, yeah.
Have you found then, as a woman yourself, in this male-dominant industry, that you have to stand stronger to not let other men walk over you?
No, I think you're indeed right with the angle that you're already sketching here. I had to fight for my place a bit, that's true. And I think even more at the corporate that I've worked for in real estate than now. I have the feeling that I work now with people that see me more as equal. And if they don't see me as equal, then I'm also taking it as it is. And just try to be myself as much as possible. I'm not trying to become more masculine because they are putting that energy towards me on the table. And I think that also came with my work experience, but also my personal development as well, that I realized that I don't want to do that because that is outside my own values then usually. That doesn't bring the best version of myself at the table. So yeah, sometimes that was difficult, but I think with time and experience, just taking it more as it is. Well, in the beginning, when I started working at Cushman, I had some hard times because of that sometimes.
Okay, tell me a few about those hard times that you had at your...
Yeah, like certain comments from colleagues or jokes about women in the workforce in general. But I don't think that it only happened or happens at that specific company. I think it's a broader, not even issue, it's just how it happens, because if you put a lot of guys all together, then they also might kind of like intoxicate each other with the same type of humor or point of view. I also heard, for example, like, women shouldn't work in real estate. You know what? You can take that very heavily, or you can just prove them wrong by doing your own thing, try to do your work well, and not let these comments get to you, because in the end, for me, that all comes down to one thing, and that is a lot of insecurity. That's what it is if you just smash it down.
It's true.
So,
it's
but
true.
it took me some time to realize that, really, it did.
That's really cool. What you said, most negative comments come from insecurities, and especially if it's towards females, because then men think they have to prove themselves more, so that's why they prop themselves up a bit.
Well, that is how it seems then, but I in the beginning couldn't get my head around this because I don't think that way. You know, I would never think about men like more or less, or about other women more or less. We're just all trying to live the best life as possible and do whatever it takes to create that life, right?
And I really like what the Stoics say, like act according to your own nature, and then find out what your own nature is. And then they have this sentence, they say, it's a shame for a man not to act according to his own nature. And I mean, for a man, like men and female, of course. What I like about like success or even getting to where you want to go, it's just keeping your momentum going, because the moment the negativity gets to you, of people making comments or those type of way, then the momentum can stop. And if you can just shrug it off, there's nothing to stop you from reaching wherever you would like to go.
Exactly. And sometimes if you let these comments get to you, it may also let you doubt your own value. And that is such a shame. I think it might discourage people, demotivate them. Well, what they bring to the table can be amazing, but here comes one of my biggest lessons then, that if you don't know what you bring to the table, then people can easily discourage you.
Exactly.
That's why you need to be very clear on that.
That's so true.
Whatever you do.
Yeah, because when you hear someone say something, it's very easy to just listen and hear what they say and then maybe believe it. But it's not backed by any actions. And we ourselves know way better what we have done in the past. And that is based on action. And that is something tangible we can believe in,
definitely.
compared to just words that other people think we are. Or I have that a lot as well, that sometimes the opinions of others still, especially with doing new things like that are out of your comfort zone, like podcasting.
I can imagine, but that's normal.
Yeah, but that makes it fun though, huh? It makes the whole journey
and I think fun. For both of us, we need to remember that usually those negative comments come from people that do less. It never comes from people who do more than you do or better than you do. It's usually always from people that wish that they would do this or that, right?
It's true. I always try to think back to, I just want to, in this moment where I am now, I just want to become more than my present place is. So I just want to overflow my cup. And then when there's enough water, I can just get a bigger cup and then start again. But that is then my next present place. And so I'm not thinking about the future, it's just the present, and become more in this moment and then see how it goes from there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I want to know more about like the whole process of your business. Can you tell me a bit more of from finding an investor or a family to the finishing off of a project in Poland? Can you tell me a bit more about that?
The process to getting there is actually not lean and mean, but it's quite straightforward, despite maybe not thinking that it would be. It starts with attracting and acquiring private money. How I did that is through my own network, but also by simply cold calling, by going on social platforms like, for example, LinkedIn, and seeing if I could find investment managers or other key stakeholders within those family offices that would be willing to one time have an introduction and see what we as a company have to offer. And then, as I explained to you, then usually if they're interested, we take them on a market trip to the Polish market, because obviously my story can sound incredible and amazing, but I always want them to see what is happening in that market by themselves. How is the infrastructure? What kind of competitors will you see on the market? How does the existing stock look like? Just to get a feeling, because you cannot invest based on a very good and well-prepared presentation. That's not how it works. At least that is not how I want to work. So usually we go then on a market trip together to Poland. We get to know each other better, because I think that is also an extremely important part of doing business, having a personal connection with the people that you decide to work together with, and especially if it considers also commercial real estate developments, because let's be honest, that sometimes can take multiple years. And that is also the reason why I haven't completed or finished a project yet, because it's going to take some time. Because overall, developing an average logistics scheme from the acquisition to the disposition of such a project can take easily at least 2 years. So you also need to have a connection on a personal level in order to stand each other for a longer time. Because let's be honest, development or developing real estate, one thing that I can assure you of is that there will always be problems. And you need to be able to also manage that, to manage conflict. And it might sometimes also arise on a personal level, because you know how human emotion work, right? But Valesca, you went on holiday, so is that not the reason that this and this and this went wrong? So you need to be also connected on a deeper level, I guess, than just professional and just on a very basic level in order to stand each other for a longer time. But okay, so we go to Poland. We also introduce them to parties that we work together with, like commercial brokerage firms, and not in order for them to directly work together, but also so, for example, they can present them more about the dynamics in the market, explain them what kind of additional services that they offer that we cannot offer, for example, and see if there would also be a link between those companies. But that indirectly also shows my added value, because I bring them to the table, I connect them with each other, and there's a reason why we're sitting there because I don't connect them with every party that I know in that market, because sometimes there's not a direct match. Also looking at values, the way of working. So that is very important to also sense quite early on and also talk about that. But
to sense like what parties work together well to make the whole process like seamless.
Exactly, because some type of money might prefer a more corporate way of working with maybe bigger agencies, right, that have a very big track record. Others are looking for a more entrepreneurial mindset, needs to move a bit quickly, needs to be a bit more hands-on. Oh, you can you meet this morning at 10? No, sorry, I can only do in 2 weeks because we have a fair, we have this or that. For some, that doesn't work. That way of working needs to be quite quickly.
So value for different people is different things, and for you is it to find out what that is, what they value, and then bring that to them, and then they see the value. Compared to only having this one thing, and this is always how you do it. So you have to be very flexible then in this whole process.
I think when you are working for yourself, then in general you should be quite flexible, because it never turns out exactly how you planned it to be. Let's be honest. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. But then coming back on the process is, okay, so we go to Poland, and then obviously they have to think about the fact, do we want to proceed with this, yes or no? And based on that decision, we either going to make a search profile with them. So, okay, you want to proceed, that's great. Which asset classes are you interested in? Are you planning to keep for your own portfolio? Or are you more keen on disposition to an institutional fund? So are we going to build a portfolio for disposition in X years? That are all things that, if they're willing to proceed, we talk about and we define that. And based on that, we start anticipating. We are looking for then suitable land positions, whether that is in PRS, PBSA, or logistics.
What fits their goal and long-term or short-term.
And then we start looking at indeed land to develop that according their strategy. And I don't do that alone. I do that with external partners that have been working at different large firms within that segment. Like, for example, for logistics, my partner worked at Prologis for a very long time, where he was responsible for BTS development, so build to suit. So build to suit means that they're developing logistics schemes based on the needs from an end user, from an occupier.
Okay, because they have experience.
So it's customized, that's how you can see it. Yeah,
really cool.
Based on end users' needs. So that is then the people that I work together with. But that is then basically a lean and mean process. Yeah. And on the other hand, next to really the development part, where we're figurating as a Polish a partner, a local partner, I also work on a commission base for companies that want to enter the Polish market but have a team more in-house or want to build a team there, and therefore gonna proceed from that point by their own. So more as a brokerage firm then. So different
just to start off with, like to start their introduction to the Polish market.
Yeah, so that is also something we're facilitating, from market research to acquiring a first proposition for them to enter the Polish market. And that can be in different segments. My focus was always on logistics, but recently it also shifted to student housing and to the private rental sector, because I saw that there was a lot of demand from investors there.
Okay, because that's what they know, and they know
it's a growing segment in Poland.
So
the yields are higher, therefore, so the return on your investment.
Yeah, and investors do like yields.
Yeah, well, in the end, it can be a very beautiful property or a very strategic location that they can acquire, but in the end, it's the underlying business case, so the financials that make it or break it, right? That give it a go or a no-go.
Yeah, and for Vesper Investing, I'm curious, what do you have thought about, like, the next 10 years? What does the next 10 years look like for Vesper Investments?
Oh. Well, that will obviously also be a very big surprise to some extent for me myself as well. I have thought about it, but it's always the question, of course, how it will turn out, because it's not only depending on me, as in I don't know which way the market in the end will head. I cannot look in the future, especially when looking at Poland as a market. There are also some insecurities, like geographical wise, political. But if I could come back to your question, where do I see Vesper Investments in 10 years? Well, first of all, by then, I hope to have finished our family-owned project that I just told you about, the large industrial park that we're developing as a family. So that is one of my main goals, I would say. And by that time, I also hope to have delivered two large logistic portfolios with an institutional exit. Yeah.
What's an
So that we're going to sell to an institutional fund the product that we have developed. But in order to do that, institutional funds, so pension funds or insurance companies, they're usually interested in, bigger ticket sizes. So you cannot just sell one warehouse to them, for example. You need multiple in order to meet a certain investment volume for them to make it interesting. So I hope by 10 years that I have at least delivered 2 of those portfolios to institutional funds. That would be really great, and that is also something that I'm really committed to. Yeah, but that will take time, a lot of patience therefore, and money. So I think 10 years is indeed the bare minimum that we need to do that.
It's momentum as well, right? It's just keep the momentum going.
Definitely, yeah. And lastly, it would be great if we can at least advise 10 new sources of capital to entering the Polish market, whether that is in the PRS segment or logistics. That would be great. So each year to find new capital that is interested on entering the Polish market. Obviously, we don't have our network, but helping at least every year one new family-owned fund or private individual entering the Polish market with our knowledge and with our partners, that would be great. And I think also a realistic goal. That's also something we should aim for also in order to keep on growing.
Like to have every 12 months a new entry.
So you have your existing pool then where you can rely on, but you're also constantly looking for new capital that I think will also make your project pipeline more steady.
So that's your 10-year goals for Vesper Investments, but do you have personal goals as well?
I think personal goals are as important as professional ones, right?
Of course.
They keep you moving.
And keeps you excited as well,
and it keeps you excited about life. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's also, I think for me, especially now in the short term, there's a lot of focus on finding new hobbies. Because I would like to spend my free time in a more active way. You know, I like reading, and from time to time watching a nice series on Netflix, but I also realized during holidays, for example, that I'm not the person that can sit still on a sunbed constantly. So I'm looking into new hobbies. So that is also a personal short-term focus. And next to that, I really would like to grow my free time and freedom further. I find what motivates me also in my work, and therefore also in my private life, is having the freedom, to move and do whatever I want.
And explore and experience.
Explore and experience life to the fullest. I think also traveling and seeing more of the world and make sure that I can spend more time with my family, that is very important for me. Like
sharing the beautiful moments in life with the people you love is the best thing. Like share also, the memories.
Well, of course, I have a lot of people around me that also supported me during moments that were maybe less glamorous in my life. But therefore, I'm also more focused on letting them share the good experience, and when things are going in the right direction and I'm enjoying life, I want to do that with the people that I appreciate and have always supported me.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I like that.
So the focus is really also here on family, friends, next to that hobbies, and just experiencing life to the fullest, because sometimes you hear such extremely weird stories about people that get sick quite spontaneously or unexpectedly,
Yeah.
And that also made me realize that, of course, I love my work. I'm passionate about it. I would love to keep on doing this for a very long time, even longer than 10 years. But you should also not forget that there's a here and now, and that, I see it in this way. Like, I'm here only once, so I want to experience it to the fullest. So, yeah.
Right, and why not? Why not ask from it? Like, if we have one life, one play.
Yeah.
Then just
so
shoot for the stars, right?
I'm always like, okay, screw it, let's do it. That's really how I live, You want to try something new out? Like, indeed in France, like I saw a kite surfboard. I was like, screw it. We made fun with friends about it. I was like, let's give it a try. You want to go play padel? Never done it. Let's go, So that is more my way of living right now. and it's really soothing me. You know, I really like it, this way of living.
You get to experience more and also know when something isn't the fit.
Exactly.
And then it's like, okay.
And that is also great, you know?
Right, like padel wasn't it? Well, kite surfing though.
Yeah. Another personal goal would be to obviously at some point start a family, but that is for the long run something that would really inspire me.
Of course.
But not for the short term. I think in the long run, I don't want any different things than most people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a stable, yet not too stable life, because that is boring in my opinion, you know?
Some ups and downs.
Yeah, no, but that's life. Otherwise you're just like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, the lows make the highs higher, right?
Yeah.
And that's the fun part.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you said about like sometimes people just out of nowhere like feel ill or like get sick or... And I was reading this book of Marcus Gladwell, I think. I think it's called the Uitblinkers in Dutch. I forgot the English word. But he was telling the story about this part in Italy where all these people back in the day didn't have any heart problems, even when they hit like 70, 60, compared to other places in Italy where they would get that way earlier. And they looked at like what they ate, and the people there in that small village, in that town, they were cooking with fat, not even the good oils and the thing. And
what we consider healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And it turned out it wasn't the food, it wasn't the things that they were eating, but it was the community there. So on the street they stopped to have talks with the people around. They cooked and brought it to their neighbors. They ate together. Their interactions were on a different level. And I really like that because that makes community is such an important part of your health.
Yeah.
And by understanding that makes like the need to see friends and make connections not even a matter of like fun, but also a matter of health. So I need to hang out with my friends because I need to get healthy.
No,
like working out is all good and stuff, but I need to be with my friends now.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful.
That's what the doctor prescribes.
Yeah.
Hang out with your friends. Go on vacation. No.
Yeah. Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Right? Yeah. It's really good.
No, it is really important. Family and friends.
On that note, actually, I just met the author of this book.
Feelings don't exist; they emerge. Okay, interesting.
And he's coming on my podcast too.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that's really cool. Yeah, but this book actually it talks about that as well. It talks about that the feelings have a very big impact on functions of our body and the cells and the systems that we have. And so that if we are lonely and sad for a long period of time, that can have a big impact on how well our body can like defend against certain things. And by result of that is we get sick, we get different things. Because normally those systems, when we're happy, and in that village where those people go to their friends because they're happy, they feel good, and then their bodies can fight against things that the fat or like the things that they're eating or like that.
I definitely believe in this correlation, really. But that is also why it's so important to be able to regulate your emotions. And next to that, to be also very conscious, I guess, about who you surround yourself with. Because I remember that you also asked me what the most important lesson is that I've learned. When I think about that, it comes also down to the key aspect, people, that you should also be very conscious about your private network, the social network that you hang around with in your private time, because we're talking then about family, friends, romantic relationships, and other relatives. I think that also these people can stimulate you in a very positive and good way. But on the other hand, they can also break a part of your success, and therefore you should be very conscious who you surround yourself with. Because if you see that those people are not supporting you and might even be jealous or have other negative energy that they send your way, then sometimes it's better to keep them a bit more at a distance, or sometimes to just walk along, really.
True, yeah. And it can slow down your momentum, right?
And like it can also influence your emotions, and you talked about this book, and I believe in that. So indeed, if you're feeling dysregulated, then that can also have an impact broader on your life, also business-wise, right?
Yeah. Because
if people are constantly telling you, Valesca, what you're doing is not the right thing, your idea is bad, your idea is bad. The more times you hear that, the more you start believing that. And the more your emotions start to also fit into this perception that other people have about your business, about you personally. So you should be very conscious about this. Really? Also, when we make a bridge to the book, I really believe in that.
I agree, totally. Because the way we see things and the way we believe things and how we think about things is how we perceive the world around us.
Yeah, for sure.
If we are in a sort of, we feel good, we're happy, we're focused, we have momentum going, then we only see opportunities around us. Mm-hmm. And if we're in this state of our friends are like saying, oh, that's not a good idea, you shouldn't do that, they're not supportive, or something else happened, and then we start seeing all the bad things around us, and then our momentum stops. Then I feel like it's just about how can we get our momentum back. And for everyone, it's different. Mm. How is that for you? Like, have you had big obstacles in your journey from like in your work life that you learned something like from that you really needed to like get back up, get your momentum back?
Yeah, I definitely did. That was even this year, and it was caused by my private situation that was very turbulent, and that really made it for me that I had to find my momentum back business-wise in order to keep on moving and maybe even to not stop, because it was really insecure, everything. But yeah, I experienced that. I think in the end that has been the best lesson I've had so far. And I wouldn't like to go back in time and change anything, to be really honest. Because if I wouldn't have had that private obstacle, then I wouldn't have made these steps business-wise. Mm. And I wouldn't also have realized how important it is to create a healthy support network for yourself privately. And that the people that are next to you in a literal sense, they can make it or break it for you. So you need to be very, very critical of that. Or you should just decide that you will never talk about business and you will never share the experiences that go on in your professional life. But I think that's difficult because it takes up so much time.
You're excited about those
things. And you're excited about those things, and you're working on that most of the week. So I think that's unrealistic.
True.
So,
And so what was the first action you did after you had that down moment and you had to get your momentum back?
Well, first of all, I tried to forget about everything that I knew. So if you see it as a puzzle, I tried to smack the entire puzzle off the table, and then I started again. That is the thing that kind of reset my mindset. But that is because everything changed in my life. Back then, I had to move out. I had to find a new apartment. I had to work on new partnerships for my company, because partnerships that I had in place, they turned out to be not profitable for the future. So instead of trying to go back in time and maybe see where the fundamentals that I placed were not as good as I thought, I just tried to forget about everything and just make literally a clean slate also in my mind. And from there on, build again. But of course, this was quite an extreme situation. So I think then it makes sense to start from that perspective. Start kind of like all over again in a mindset way. Of course, I had the fundamentals for my company. It's not that we changed the strategy or anything.
Yeah.
Just make a clean slate. And if it's not that extreme, then what I learned also by a business coach that I then connected with, because it was a turbulent time. So it was like, okay, let's also look at external sources that I can use to kind of like clear the path and make sure that I can move forward business-wise in the most strategic way. And what I learned from this business coach is that you can never count on motivation. It's habit that keeps you going. So he said, if you don't feel motivated or you feel that your energy is low, just count back from 5 to 0 and start. Because it will never be the right time. There's always something that might pop up that might distract you, or private situations that might be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that.
I have been struggling with that this year as well a little bit, because I moved from Australia back to the Netherlands and I had all of these great habits in place, but being in a different place and new surroundings again, I had to restart that whole thing because I lost them a little bit in between there. But I found that every day I just need to like do the smallest thing. If I don't have the energy for it, but still do it. Like, how small can I make it so that I can still do something today?
Exactly. So the barrier to entry is quite low, how can I motivate myself,
Yeah.
But I think also acceptance. Sometimes accepting that it might you might not do as much as you want to do, but as long as you can start and progress every day, just a percentage better, I really live by that statement, then you're doing great. Probably better than most people, you know?
I agree. Yeah.
There's also a very, very nice other trick that I learned from this business coach that might also help you, is that if you put the bar indeed very high, but in the end you do 50%, then you have done already more than what average people would have proceeded with.
Yeah, I really like that. I did that for my fundraising.
And if you say like, Valesca, if you just do like these 3 tasks, then it's already fine. You will probably just do 1.5 of them. But if you put 10 tasks of your list and you do half, then you have completed 5 tasks, which is already more than the status quo that you wanted to proceed with, you know, or the initial.
But how would you then, because this is how I usually think, if I set 10 and I do 5, I still sometimes feel shitty about not having done the 5. How do you then still be happy about, I've done 5?
Yeah, because you know that if you wouldn't have set this target, that you would probably already have stopped in the middle of 5, right?
It's true.
Let's be honest, if you just like kip zonder kop, you say in Dutch, like a chicken without a head, you just start running, then probably you would only have completed 3 tasks instead of 5.
Yeah.
Because you know that if you put a list or to-do list in place, that you usually, that's I think a human tendency as well, that you put more tasks on the list than you could initially complete, you know, because then you're too optimistic about it, like, okay, I've much more I have time, you know, I can do it.
Yeah. And then turned out that everything takes a little bit longer than I expected.
Think with planning in the end, you tend out to be more efficiently. You get more done. I think that's a fact.
And then still be happy about whatever we've done today.
I think that if you didn't complete those other 5 tasks, then you also realize that they were not as important. Because otherwise you would have started with the other 5.
Yeah, exactly. So start with the most important ones.
Realize what is really important and what is not. I think a lot of people tend to do it, and you also see that very well in corporate companies, that I didn't get that done. Okay, but was it really that important then? That is also sometimes a question you have to ask yourself, because I see that the tasks that I didn't complete by the end of the week are usually things that are also not on top of mind for other people, and also not on top of mind for myself. I can give you one good example of this week. I have it on my to-do list already for a week. I'm reminded of it every day in my agenda, and I still didn't make new business cards. But woohoo, is that really that important? I don't think it is. At some point I have to do it, but I see that the tasks that I usually don't complete are not the tasks that are really threatening my deals or anything.
Yeah, exactly. They're not non-urgent.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend James gave me this metric of to put my goals in, like especially my daily things, like start with your important urgent, and then you have non-urgent but important. They have urgent, non-important, and non-urgent, non-important.
Okay.
That one, the last one, is just, we don't have to do those.
They're not the garbage bin.
Yeah. But the ones we usually forget are the important ones, but that aren't urgent.
Yeah.
And those are usually long-term things, like going to the gym every day, stretch, because for long-term wise, if I'm 70, I still want to be able to pick up something if I drop it. Like something like that it isn't urgent right away, but it's important. Yeah, same with business cards, right? Like if you have a deal and you quickly need to give something
and you don't have it, then
like, oh, that could have been but it's in that one. So I really like that metric, and I'm so happy that James gave me that one, because that helped me like a lot to see things for what they are. Like,
so it's helping you out.
It's helping me a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
And I try to like put my goals now. That's why I have this is my daily companion. So in here I always write everything, and just I like to have it on paper. That works a bit better for me than having it in my phone. It's a bit more tangible.
I think it's also to clear our head. It's a better strategy, right? To just write it down.
Exactly. Yeah, it goes from here, and it just gives me more working space.
Yeah.
That's
a good one. I might also make use of the personal companion. I will think about it.
I really like it. Yeah, I have it even if I work and I listen to an audiobook and I get this idea for my podcast, or I just write it down next to my goals, and then in the evening I go over everything and then say like, oh, that's good. And then I put it in my weekly planner, And then I can, next week when I plan out my next week again, I can take all the things and put it when I want to do it, so I can implement it.
Yeah.
I mean, I found that planning isn't my greatest thing, so my girlfriend and I sit down and we say like, what are we gonna do next week? And then we write everything down. I usually say what I need to do and she writes it down so that we can plan together. This way I found that my less strong quality of planning or now planning is all right, it's writing and planning because of my dyslexia. I needed to find a way to make it work better. So in that way we
Okay, but it's great that you found a way to structure your life like this, right?
Yeah.
And that you can help each other out. That you both have like your own strengths and weaknesses that together like you can utilize, right?
That was my thinking as well.
Yeah.
So this is how we have a moment to speak about things that we did last week and if there were any friction things, and then plan for the next week in a easy and good way. There is one question that I am super curious about.
Spill the beans.
I found on your LinkedIn that you speak 6 languages. How did you learn 6 languages?
Well, let's clarify one thing. I don't speak 6 languages fluently.
Okay.
That is one thing that I really have to put on the table. So it's not like Dutch or like Polish or like English even.
Oh, but that's already 3 fluent then.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I grew up in a bilingual household. My mother is Polish and my dad is Dutch. So that is already the reason for speaking Dutch and Polish fluently, because I had to. Otherwise, I could also not communicate with my Polish part of the family, and that would be a shame. They never learned English, you know, like they grew up in a communist country. It was forbidden to learn English, so it was for me to learn Dutch, because otherwise family holidays would be quite boring, I guess. And I grew up in the Netherlands, so then in school you tend to learn English, right? I had German and I had Spanish also in university, and for some time for my studies I also did an exchange abroad in Germany. I did my minor in corporate finance there, where most of the subjects that I followed were also in German, so obviously then you learn quite quickly. But let's be honest, I have that habit that I can memorize vocabulary quite easily, but that means that if I would pick it up right now, especially German and Spanish, I think I can catch up quite quickly. If I start reading, I also understand most of it and what the topic entails, you know, what they're talking about. But having a conversation like this in Spanish, that would be quite difficult, I can tell you. I don't think I would manage. I think I would more easily manage even in German than in Spanish. Yeah.
It's already amazing that you speak 3 languages then fluent, and having that ability of being able to see the correlation with languages and having that easy absorption, that's an amazing ability to have.
Yeah, I think so too. And also business-wise, I have to be honest that it also helps to create, from a professional perspective, a more intimate relationship with people that I work together with. For example, I have a Dutch party where I work a lot together with, and we went together to Poland, but they mostly speak German, because also this particular director for that firm is serving the German market. And it helps if you can start off in German and make some certain jokes and then move on to Dutch or to English, you know? It helps to create a certain connection, certain bond. Because also when we were sitting during dinner at the table together, sometimes they were looking for the words in English, for example, because we were with people from different nationalities combined. And then they just tell me in German and I understand, you know, and I translate it then to English. And it helps, you know, because they feel like they can also... And then they directly turn to you, you know, and that creates a different type of bond, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool.
It directly creates a connection. Yeah, despite it is maybe like a bit like an unhandy and uncomfortable situation for them. Yeah. You know, like, oh, Valesca, can you tell me like, what is that in English? I'm like, okay, that's this, you know? Yeah. And it gives us also different dynamics. So it has only done good for me. Next to that, I think if you also start learning a new language, you also realize how difficult it is, and you're maybe also less judgmental to people that speak with an accent or are from abroad. You're more also open-minded to that because you realize how difficult it is, and especially to get to a level that you're almost fluid.
Yes,
fluid.
Like how much
that
time
is so difficult.
Gets into it.
I have that with Polish, that people are complimenting me now that I barely have an accent, that they can barely tell that I'm Dutch. You know, I don't have that specific Dutch accent, but. True. I love it, but I'm like, how much effort that has cost me, despite the fact that I was raised bilingual. But you get a different slang if you
mix
mainly
it up.
talk Dutch, for example. We
Yeah.
have a different way of pronouncing words that are not similar in different languages. So that's difficult, So I also have more respect for people learning new languages because I know how difficult it is. And that also sometimes you may feel left out.
Yeah, because it's so easy for people to think that when you're able to speak multiple languages, that it was sort of given to you or that it was super easy. But you have put the effort in. You went to the countries you spoke, you went out of your comfort zone to really speak German when you were in Germany.
That was also lonely in Germany, I can tell you from time to time.
Right? Yeah. I mean, and you had to endure those feelings to be able to get to a point where you learn the language. Because I went to Japan to learn Japanese and study there. And I found the moment I went to places that were like, ooh, no one speaks English here. And you really had to like dig deep and use the words that you know and try to interact. That was the moment that I really started learning.
Yeah.
And that feeling, you have to go through all of those feelings to
unlock that potential in yourself, to level up in a language. But that's incredible that you did that. And how long were you in Japan?
For 3 months.
Okay.
But I was studying 5 times a week at a school. And every day I was doing my own homework.
Okay.
So that helped a lot to like get my progress a bit quicker.
What an incredible experience.
It was. Would you recommend it to go to a different country and have an experience like that?
Yeah, 100%. I think everybody should do that, to broaden your mind and also to learn to step out of your comfort zone. And this can be like a very good method for that. I was pushed by my studies that I had to move abroad anyway for 6 months, so I could choose, but I was going because otherwise I wouldn't get my student points. So that was how simple it was. But it's a very good and low entry barrier to learn to step out of your comfort zone. And you get more open-minded. You will be like less in the things in your own routine, You will step out more easily because you already have seen that in a different country.
Yeah, you will get over certain roadblocks and then you find new ones because you never get rid of all of them.
No, you
but
won't.
It's really funny that way because then you have, like even now, when I was younger, I found speaking to people that I didn't know, it was quite hard. I think everyone has it a little bit just to walk up to someone that they don't know and just have a conversation or talk to people. But when you start doing that more and more, and you go to places, you go to different countries by yourself, and then
it gets more easy.
It gets easier.
Let's be honest. The barrier is becoming lower and lower, and it's so good, and so empowering, I think, as well.
For the whole journey, it helps so much. How I met you was like I could have not asked you about like more personal things, like what do you do for work, and then go straight into, do you want to come on my podcast?
Yeah. No, I love the initiative, and the way you also approached me was for me also a reason to say like, yes, let's do that. That sounds amazing,
You already talked a bit about that you had to go clean sleeve. You have to like take the puzzle, throw it away, start over again. In this book that I read, it was really fun that they called it zero-based thinking. Okay. With everything that I now know, what would I change? Or would I do the same things again with all the knowledge that I have now? I'm curious if you, at this moment, after your new learning process, everything that you've learned in your career so far, if you had to start all over, how would you do it? And would you still choose the same path you're now on?
I would definitely choose the same path that I'm on right now, 100%. I'm not sure if you'll get the answer from me that you're expecting, but I wouldn't change a single thing. Because all the experiences I went through, it got me to the place where I'm today, and I'm really satisfied with the place I am right now. And I know that from here on I can only grow further if I maintain the same mindset, same focus. No, I wouldn't change a thing, because the thing is that I wouldn't change my ways if certain roadblocks wouldn't have hit me. So that's my answer.
I think that's the most healthiest answer.
The thing is, okay, there are maybe situations that ideally you want to change. Ideally, right? But maybe that would have caused for me to not be at the point where I'm today. Yeah. And I wouldn't like that. So I don't know what the impact would have been if I could change that. So the answer is no. And that doesn't mean that it has always been easy. more strongly, it hasn't been easy. Especially the last year wasn't. But still, I wouldn't like to change a thing because it has brought me so much on a professional level, but also on a personal level. I see which people I can count on. I know which people I cannot count on and had to go. I know which partners that I work together with have the same norms and values that I do. I also know which ones don't. So that also makes it a very clear manner for me to distinguish who fits also my vision and who doesn't. And that doesn't mean that if you don't fit my vision, you have to go out. The awareness is very important. And I learned that only by just being smashed completely on my face.
Getting the momentum back after an obstacle, that's the greatest thing.
Yeah. And that is also what will make you evolve in life. That is what I believe. Because to be really honest, if you're asking me about the moments that I learned the most from, it are definitely not the moments where I did everything perfectly fine and everything perfectly great without anybody having feedback on it. Then I just did it in my routine, on my automatic pilot. Didn't learn me anything. What learned me a lot is when people were pissed because I didn't function according to the way they were expecting me to, and that type of situation. So, yeah, that was a bit how I can respond to this question.
I mean, when there's friction, that's the moment change has to happen, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the longer we are going along in our lives, we find the friction moments easier to identify. And we know like, oh, this is one again. And then the more we do, the easier it gets to start to find, because it's, you probably know when you threw away your puzzle and had to start all over.
It was liberating as well. It was painful, but it was also liberating.
Yeah, but you have to go through the pain to feel the deliberation, right?
Yeah, you do. But then if you do it well, you will be rewarded by the end of the road.
And that's the cool thing. The more often you do so,
right,
you know what will come after that feeling, so you don't have to like if it feels you
start to feel more comfortable in that kind of weird disruptive situations, I guess.
Right. I feel like that's why I enjoy doing crazy things like skydiving or like it's a bit more dangerous thing like motorcycling or just jiu-jitsu I do. Because then other moments that for some people might feel as stressful, for me, like, I've been in a choke that I think like, oh, this is not good. And then I still have to get out and I feel, and then compared to being on the airport and missing my flight and I have to stress about it, I don't have to.
Yeah.
The situations like that, they don't even come close to other places that I've been.
Yeah, to your own reference, let's say.
To my own reference. Yeah, because I've created reference points. I've chose directly like to go out of my comfort zone, to do those things, to make my day-to-day life seem and feel easier.
But that's good. It will make you more resilient to life.
Right? Like you've experienced that as well. Yeah. I really appreciate you being here on the podcast today. It's really cool.
Well, don't worry about it. I also enjoyed it. I was also happy and interested to learn more about you, about your experiences and what you have been doing. I
want to end this podcast with asking, if people want to reach out to you, how could they get in touch?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So if you're inspired or you would like to know more about real estate investing or just have a chat, then of course feel free to reach out to me. You can just find me on LinkedIn by typing in my name or my or reach out to my company page. That's also an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it all right if I put the link under this video?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So if you have any questions for Valesca, then just click on the link and you can send her a message. Thank you for watching the Journey to Life podcast. On my podcast, I talk with amazing people that tell their life story and share their knowledge. I upload every week, so if you want to check out another podcast, then click here in the corner and I'll see you there.